Yes, we're going to get started. So thank you, first of all, very much, everybody, for joining me. I'm Dana Crawford. I'm the Strategic Director here at WorthPoint. And I'm so happy to have Bob with us today. And I hope that he's going to have so much fun. He's going to want to do it again. Bob Eckstein he actually works for WorthPoint as a writer and an illustrator. And rumor has it, he has a winter t-shirt coming out for the holidays that WorthPoint is very excited about, but we won't tell everybody about that yet. And he is a big time collector, and he's going to share with us his beautiful home in Pennsylvania. And he lives there with his wife, and they have together a wonderful collection of things. I had a little sneak peek last week, so I can't wait to see the rest of it. He's also a New York Times best-selling author. So it's such an honor to get to know him on a personal level. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us, and take it away, Bob.
Oh, thanks so much. Great intro. Well, you're joining me right now at my office. I'm in Northeastern Pennsylvania, and this is where I work. I'm going to talk for a moment before I switch over to show you where I'm sitting. But I go here to work on my cartoons and my writing and everything else I've been doing over this pandemic. I did about 60 pandemic cartoons since this started for different publications. Including the New Yorker, the Daily Beast, and many other places like the Weekly Humorist. And I also come up here to write and get away from everything because I'm a real proponent of trying to disconnect from online and all the distractions and try to find yourself in a place that you could be playful in your mind and really allow your voices in the back of your head that have been percolating ideas to come forth. I've been teaching this to some of my students about how to really listen to some of the ideas that are in your head elsewhere. And so anyway, let me show you where I am. I'm on the roof of my house, and I'm going to swing around a bit. And this is my office right there. That's my desk. It was made with just a couple of boards and stuff and some roof jacks. Initially, I wanted to hire a contractor to build something up here, and he came back with this elaborate plan that was really expensive. And I said, how is it that you came up with such a large number here? And he goes, well, I have to make it handicap accessible. And then he has this on the diagram, a large ramp. Anyway, this is the view over the crest of the roof showing my house, which we're going to go into. And I'm going to show a couple of things that are on display in the house as well as on the computer, because a lot of my stuff is on the computer because it's a bit much. For instance, my Snowman Collection is close to 1,000 items. So I really wasn't going to take all that stuff out, and you wouldn't get a chance to see it properly. But we have a nice presentation to show that. So for 1 minute, I'm going down off the roof, and you will see what we did was, sorry for the frantic scanning, but what I did was I came down that ladder. I consider this webinar a grand success just because I didn't fall off the roof and we didn't have like a Sopranos Go Black ending sort of result there. So everything over this now after this is gravy. Anyway, this is my backyard, and I made a path that goes through the woods back there because I was taught last year at a writing conference the importance of going for walks into nature to be more creative. So I went back there and built it. I'm just going to stroll here for just a second. We have the first collection I'll point out is birdhouses. That's a small collection that I have. I have about 30 or so birdhouses throughout the house. We have a Martin house you could see over there. There's bridges everywhere. We have about 5 different bridges going over the creeks in different places. And I'm walking over to my home. Here's some other birdhouses we have. Have some over here. and we collect wind jigs and stuff like that. I'm sorry, but right now there are no bears here, but they are usually here because my wife and I have an ongoing argument over putting out bird feed, and that's going to be a battle for the ages. And I'm just going to show you the front of the house. My wife is on the patio working, and we have more gadgets and stuff there. So let's go inside. This house was a fixer-upper when we got it, and everything about it had to be redone, including the pump, the plumbing, the electricity, everything. Even the floor, as we walk into the kitchen, you walk right in. Our mudroom is about 1 foot by 2 feet. What we did was, for the floor, there was nothing but plywood. So we had to make the floor ourselves. And we had already had a matchbook collection. And so what we did was, I took my favorite matchbooks and I painted them on the floor to fill in the space. And you could see here some examples. And the kitchen was done mostly by my wife. She redid the counters that you see here. And I redid a stained glass window that was broken here. These cabinets were all something different. We had to redo them. Up here, you'll see some milk bottles. We have a huge milk bottle collection that's not out because there wouldn't be enough room. But we have many, many more. This is a 1919 phone. I got this at an auction. It wasn't working, but I had a cousin, John, who helped me. Well, he didn't help me. He did it. He made it working again, and it's really cool. It's like talking on a submarine, too. It's not very clear. And here we have some plates, and we have artwork up here. This is just a warm-up to the collection. This over here is our bad artwork collection. We like to collect bad artwork. That's like a big thing. We have some beautiful paintings as well, but we also have a real fondness for really bad paintings. And this is some color by numbers. A little messy here, but this is where we play chess. That's a salt and pepper shaker. And this is an example of some bad artwork up there. I have a studio outside that's filled with bad portraits. Large collection. This is one of the guest rooms. I actually have all the lights on in the room, so when I walk in, they're already on. And I also have on some hair product. So this is a room that was converted. You can see this was the outside of the wall. And we have a deer's head. We have a birdhouse we used in the nightlight. I made these hooks. And we're really into lots of old photographs and stuff like that. And here we have some old tennis rackets. I have stacks and stacks of old rackets. Some of these are really old. They're the ones with the wooden handles. There's no lever, and it's sort of the triangle shape. So that's kind of neat. Let's go to the bathroom, not because I need it, but just because it's kind of an interesting curiosity. Each room, we kind of had a theme, like to try to decorate it. And in this case, we wanted to do something that was like sort of dentist's office, I guess, ship, nautical. And you'll see here that we have some ship stuff and some nautical stuff. This is really great photograph. I don't know if you can see that. This light switch is a blueprint for a bedpan. And we've collected bedpans. We have 20 or 30 of those, and we repurpose them in different ways throughout the house. And here's an example down here. That's a tampon dispenser we saw at an auction. Almost every object we have had in the house is either a found object or we purchase at auction. That's the case with the medicine cabinet. That's the case with the test tubes here, which are now filled with mouthwash, or any fixture you see. The sink was actually also a found object that was in the streets of New York City. And that's where we got the kitchen sink. This was a found object. We just decorated all the cabinets and stuff. We had some old decals we found at a box lot, which you see here, just for decals. The floor was stuff being thrown out, and we pieced it together to make this floor and some plates. And we're going to the other room now. If anybody has any questions, please just put them in the chat room. And,
Bob, we did have a question when you go back through. Somebody wanted to see a close-up of the salt and pepper chess set.
Oh, sure. I didn't patent that, so they can do it themselves. That is simply, yeah, let's take a look. It's kind of neat how this worked out. As you could see, you really can tell which pieces are which piece. And of course, these are all, you can get these at restaurant wholesalers, but well, you could, collect them on eBay and box lots as well. So
Brilliant.
we're just about to go into the living room, and I will just do a little scan here. These are Jigsaw Puzzles. One of the collections that I'm really fond of is fish decoys. These are spearfishing decoys that I'm going to show over here. And these are from the 1920s in Minnesota most of the time, or Wisconsin, where spearfishing is very popular. And what people do is they put this in a hole in the ice, and then you wait for the fish to come, and then you actually spear it. So all these things are just found objects from auctions, and a lot of it's Brimfield. Some of this furniture was off the streets of New York City, including this desk, which is really neat. It has some oil paintings on the doors and has all these secret compartments throughout that open up, and all these drawers. I made the brochure holder, but the other objects were all from auction. The pheasant was, I think, a $10 buy at the local auction. This ashtray with the bear, that's a quarter. The desk did cost me $150 to rent a truck to get it delivered, but that was found on Rubbish Day in Brooklyn. Throughout the house, there are hook rugs that my wife made. This rug actually documents how we met and our sort of eventual marriage, which I'll explain a little bit later because it's kind of an unusual story. Here's another hooked rug of hers. Okay. And then, again, a lot of found objects or objects found at the auction. This table was on the streets of New York City when a guy was fired from his office in 42nd Street. We're not going to go into all the rooms because it would take forever. So I decided to pick on half the rooms to show the tour, where it just goes on and on, but more color by number paintings. The couch was a broken couch at an auction that cost $2, but I repaired it. Stack of suitcases everywhere. Of course, you see them all the time at the auctions, and it's a great way to repurpose them. And here we have a few things I'm fond of. We have duck decoys that were made into this sort of set that's really neat. And this really horrible, beautiful painting. The light I made using a glue gun and just found objects around the yard. And the lampshade we got from an auction. I believe it's an auction. And same true with all the stuff. The chairs, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of the name of what you call these. I want to say the company is Old Hickory that do these rockers. And I got these for a pair for $150. And I actually was on the Antique Roadshow, and I asked the guy what the value was of these 1910 chairs. And he asked me, well, how much did you pay for them? I said, $150. And he goes, well, that's what they're worth. That's the answer I got after waiting like 3 hours. Throughout the house, there are trapdoors and secret passages, and we're going to go up through one now. And just bear with me. This is a little bit awkward, but I have to open up the doors to get there. And here we go. So upstairs, we built this dormer up here. And the first thing we have is a collection of bed samples. These are samples that people used to go around shopping their beds to different places, and they would show these as examples of part of their stock. Now, it's a little unclear to see this now because they're covered with fabric and some text, and that's because my wife turns these sample beds into pieces of artwork. What she does is she's a well-known artist whose work is on display at major museums like the Victoria or Albert and the Met and other places. This is one of her hook rugs. Over here was another trapdoor to a secret passage. What we have here is a mistake. When I was doing the dormer, there was another part of the house already here that was part of the attic. And we didn't really finish doing it. We had a seam. And for the time being, we just slapped this piece of tree up there with a squirrel. And up there, you see a bird in the nest. And then it kind of grew on me. I just left it that way. And we've left it that way. This was a project I just finished during the pandemic. We had this jigsaw puzzle, and we didn't have a really good frame for it. But I always admired those Adirondack frames with the birch bark. And when I went up to Lake Placid this summer, it was the summer before, I had a book event. And I really admired the frames I saw in the stores, but I wanted to do it myself. And this is what we came up with. So now we'll go into this room. This room's a little bit busy. And this is one of my wife's studios in which she makes her corset beds. And, well, the whole point of the corset beds is that she tells stories of women and their life on a bed or in a corset. There's two different themes she has going on. And she has all these feminist themes that run through her artwork. And to tell the story, she stitches the stories onto the fabric. The words are on the sheets and the bed spreads of these little beds. And you undo the bed as if you were turning pages. Okay, let's see. I can show you an unusual bathroom we have up here. This is a homemade bathroom. Again, found objects. The sink was found in the city. A couple of things. Try to come up with a unique way of having the toilet paper. We have a lot of crate labels from different things, and we always repurpose them. And I'm opening up the medicine cabinet to show you how we lined this medicine cabinet with it. And we also try to have the fixtures seem a little more interesting than usual. So in this case, this is an old ceramic toggle on and off switch instead of just using, a regular switch. Anyway, this is my office. I have a porthole here because the point of this office initially was to turn this attic space into an environment that would inspire me to do my book, a graphic novel about Arctic exploration. So what I did was I wanted to recreate as if I was on a ship. And so we have here is, we have an oar there, that's a curtain rod. We have a lantern. We have a bunch of nautical stuff that people have given me and odds and ends. This is a painting that I really love. It's a Hudson River oil painting. I'm not sure who did it. It was damaged when I first got it, but it only cost $25 with the frame and the light. Here's some other items I got at the auction. Basically, no one was bidding on these old typewriters, and I got those for, I think, $1. So in here we have other odds and ends, and I have a wall here of engravings and different pieces of artwork, with the oldest one being from 1635, and it's actually the real deal. That's the one I just showed there. Another way of repurposing, I'll just show this quickly, is I made this lamp out of a spool, and we added a shade to it. Behind it's actually one of the first paintings that I ever did. It's done with crayons, and I did that as a kid. And I saved it and I framed it. The day bed here is actually an old bookcase, and I just turned it on its side and turned it into a place to pretend I'm working up here. I go sleep there instead. This is by my wife again, one of her hooked rugs. It's not too often that you see a hook rug with blood spurting out. There you go. This is actually another one of the secret passages. As I mentioned, all the rooms have different things for storage and stuff, and we kind of made it more useful by kind of finishing it. And this whole room was finished. The ceiling was actually nothing. This was all beams and stuff, and we added these the tongue and groove. And I didn't want to use the panel of it because there's a sort of replica of this stuff that you could buy in a sheet. Instead, these are actually the boards because I wanted it to feel a little authentic. Same goes true with the floors. The floors I kind of put down, and they're all kind of rustic because they're all separate and put that way. And let's see, what else is here? I have one cartoon up. This is not by me, but this is by the famous Michael Maslin. And it's a couple of UFO guys coming to the planet Earth. And he says, "There's my wallet, right where I left it." I have about 1,200 cartoons in storage. And they're not out, but that's what I have. Let's see, we have my Snowman collection I took out for a moment. As I mentioned, I have close to 1,000 pieces. And I'll lay this down here as an example of just boxes and boxes of antique items, examples of the snowman in early illustration. I'm gonna go over here to my desk now and show. Here's an early advertisement. I have boxes and boxes of how the snowman was used in advertising. And see if we can get this in focus. Many, many photographs and postcards. Small. I have lots of matchbooks. I don't know if you could see that well, but there's a snowman in it. Okay. And lots of examples of the snowman acting poorly. Here, holding a bottle of liquor and chasing down a girl with a pointed stick. So anyway, I'd love to share with you the show that I put together for my collection. It will make it much easier to see. So I just need to do a switch here for a minute. Let me continue here. This would be part of the collection downstairs, and this gives you a better view. What I did was I illustrated all the different fish decoys. And a lot of these came from the American Primitive Gallery. And I bet you some of the collectors would know Arn, the curator down there. And he had a wonderful selection of fish decoys and stuff. And I'll answer one question I saw was that, how did I get started in collecting? Well, everyone likes certain things. And of course, everyone has their own leanings. And for me, it was Godzilla and stuff. But it was actually my wife who got me seriously into collecting because she exposed me to going to Brimfield each year. There's a point that I was actually there once or twice with a booth. And I started meeting people who were serious collectors. I started getting in that community where people were really very knowledgeable, and I learned a lot about it. And right now, I'm just really excited about almost any type of collecting. But as I mentioned before, I did start off as a cartoonist. In 2007 is when I began. Actually, everything that's happened to me could be traced back as an accident. And I'm going to demonstrate that in a moment. I grew up in the South Bronx, and I was an altar boy. And so a lot of my cartoons are religiously themed. I kind of use a lot of themes with religion And I used to work for a magazine that was the largest Catholic magazine in the world. I went to art school, and I'm going to repeat a story I've told many times, but as everyone else has experienced, I also had an enemy in school. And my enemy became a big influence in my whole life. Because unbeknown to me, I would run into my enemy again 12 years later. Darth Vader. Actually, I didn't meet them at a class reunion. I actually met them at a funeral. And that's where we hooked up again. We ran into each other at the funeral. It was claustrophobic. And this was my future wife. My wife and I got along better this time, and we went here shortly afterwards. This is the capital of Iceland, off the coast, and this is where we eloped. And so we went from pretty much enemies to actually being married. Here's a couple of cartoons I did for collectors. So these are themed with collecting. If Rick was a dealer, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. Tomorrow's box lots. I'm sorry for not doing an imitation of Bogart. Too focused on that. Another auction cartoon. My cartoons appear at the Antiques and Arts Weekly. And also WorthPoint is going to be running some of my cartoons down the road, which I'm really grateful for, and I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, my story kind of begins with collecting, though, with snowmen. And it started with this little piece of paper. Someone had given me advice that if I wanted to be successful as a writer, I really needed to be an expert at something. And I came up with this really simple business card, which is actually done with a little crayon, an orange crayon, to make the carrot for the snowman. And it's with this card that I was able to land a very prestigious literary agent in New York City. And just from this card, she said she would take me on as a client. And that began my quest immediately for this holy grail of looking for snowmen. And I traveled around the world for about 7 years and recruited a team of experts, whether they were professors of history or art historians, and all different types of different niche people who can provide with me the facts I needed to piece together when the first snowman was made. This is Bamburgh Castle in England. This is the highest point in Ireland, the tallest mountain. This is a snowman festival in Japan. In Japan, not only can the hand be used as a knife, but they make snowmen with 2 balls, and they carve out the cavity of the snowman, and they place a lit candle. It's really beautiful. This was a global warming demonstration in Berlin. And this is the world's tallest snowman. This is in Bethel, Maine, and this is 13 stories. So I have to tell you, I'm not really that much into snowmen, to be honest with you, but I'm into mysteries. I've always been obsessed with Sherlock Holmes, and I wanted to solve the mystery of who made whatever. I mean, initially, I didn't know what that mystery was going to be, except I knew that I didn't want to make it a crime. I didn't want to make it something negative. So then I tried to do, who made the first sandwich or something like that. Like, what would be the first something that's a mystery? And I stumbled upon the snowman. Initial research, I found out that this was something that no one's really researched as much as it should have been. And that the snowman actually played a pivotal role in a lot of different things. And that's a real folk art that possibly our ancestors in prehistoric times actually shared with us. This is actually a little illustration on the margins of an illuminated manuscript I found at the Royal Library at The Hague, dated 1308. And it's next to a very somber passage about the crucifixion of Christ. And this is an anti-Semitic image based on the knowledge we know and all the experts who have helped me decipher what is actually going on here, which is that it's a snowman on top of a pot that's melting him, and the hat indicates that it is a Jewish snowman. The symbolism is used in Gothic paintings to disparage Jewish characters in artwork. And so what happened was, is, as I went on this search to try to figure out who made the first snowman, I also had to collect items because they were actually possibly clues to the answer of where the first snowman came from. This is actually a photo of a coffin. A man wanted to be buried inside a snowman, and that was on his will and testament. This is a portion of my collection when it's partially out. I've had the show at public libraries where I got a chance to let the public enjoy the collection, but it's so much, it's really hard to kind of show it all the time. And I want to apologize for not showing it in person, but doing it in this manner. But as you can see, it's a little cumbersome. And it takes up a whole room on its own. This is some of the magazines where the snowman appeared. And here are some objects. I'll show a couple of close-ups of these. It's funny how they range from almost nothing to being very valuable. Of course, I have some old photographs. I did intensive history about photography because at the birth of photography in 1840, Mary Dillwyn, who was one of the pioneers in the discipline of photography, well, one of her first photographs was a couple making a snowman. So the snowman was actually sort of a frozen Forrest Gump, again, being right there at some kind of advancement going on. And the snowman does appear in the first postcards and the first trade cards. Trade cards are sort of the illustrated business cards people used to leave in the businesses. The snowman appeared in the first magazines and in the first newspapers. And I've collected all these different items to piece together an accurate depiction of the snowman's history. And it's important because actually the snowman was an early form of pornography and an early form of political commentary. This is an example of a trade card. You can see how beautiful they are. And it's actually quite small. This is really enlarged. A lot of snowmen made into soap. I found that a lot of World War I Germans loved to pose with the snowman. It's obvious that they were looking toward the snowman as the leader. You'll notice it's in the back there, in case you missed it. This is a giveaway for salesmen, brush salesmen. They would give away this sort of promotional thing for the holidays, and you'd use this to clean your shoes. This snowman works by batteries and lights up and dances, and lights blink on and off, and his head turns. I think this was a dog toy. Everything was game for the Snowman Collection. Lego. The cotton snowmen, for some reason, were the most expensive ones, the most valuable items to locate. This is a beer advertisement. Here's an example of what I was saying. This particular type of German spun snowman ornament was from the 19-teens, I believe. Seems like that era had produced this style, and these would easily get $300 or more on eBay. For some reason, this was the most expensive item you could find. From my snowman collection, I did a book called The History of the Snowman, and it came out again 2 years ago called The Illustrated History of the Snowman. And it's a very lush book of photos, and I found myself wanting to put cartoons in it about snowmen to use as an intermission. And I did this cartoon to just fill space. Initially, I used the New Yorker cartoons, but I ran out of money. The whole project of doing the book with expenses and going places and getting the permission for the photographs and for the artwork was over $23,000. So I ran out of money. And so I decided to do my own cartoons. I was always an illustrator, and I've been writing humor since I was a teenager for different magazines and stuff. So I gave it a try, and you've had a lot of free time this year. And I found myself all of a sudden changing vocations and becoming a New Yorker cartoonist in 2007. The New Yorker purchased the first cartoon that I drew and tried to pitch to them. And I can honestly say that it's kind of been downhill since then. I'm not in the magazine as much now, if at all, but I do cartoons for a lot of other places. And hopefully and make the day go a little easier for some people, especially during this time. I was mentioning earlier, I've done about 60 cartoons about the pandemic. And so this is where we are. Just to reorient you that this is where we're at. Got Penguin for good luck. A lot of people have seen this office before on TV. It was on TV and it was also in magazines. It was voted top 10 coolest offices in the world. And after that, people would send me objects to add to the decor, which I'm really grateful for, and really cool stuff you could see. Some gauges and stuff, and there's the porthole you saw. And a little clearer view. And meanwhile, I've been doing work for the convention. I'm really excited about watching the Democratic and Republican convention. I don't know if anyone else is interested and if people are maybe tired of it, but I find all these speeches and the juxtaposition of the different views really fascinating. And I've been working on that. And of course, we started on the roof of my house. That's where I go sometimes to work. And I do want to mention that I do books, hopefully to try to help pay the bills and try to help others as well. This book was to help raise awareness for independent bookstores. And it's a really neat book. I got a chance to visit all these different bookstores and paint them, make them really glamorous and really dress them up. And unfortunately, it was supposed to be a TV show 2 years ago, and that project kind of fell through. But the book is in different languages. It's in Korean, Japanese, Chinese, and that's really neat. And then I came up with this series of books. I love cartoons. I love the people who do them. I've been lucky enough to call them, some of them, my friends and spend time with them. And I really wanted to showcase what they've done for me and their work. And some of their best work doesn't even get seen. So we came up with this series, and this last book that says All Fair in Love and War, that one comes out in October, and it's all going to be about marriage and divorce and love. So I'm really looking forward to it. I've actually seen an advanced copy, and it's great. Really looks beautiful. And if you don't mind me blogging and posting myself here a little bit, this is my snowman book. And my paintings have been made into postcards because we wanted to include a lot of places that were cut from the book. What happened was I did about 150 bookstores, and we only could do like half. We ran out of space. It was just too much. We didn't want to make it, impossibly hard read. So we came up with this idea to include a lot of them as postcards so people could still get some exposure and some love and see the other paintings I had done. And then this is my last book, which I did with my buddy Michael Shaw, who is really sharp, really funny, and his cartoons and mine are in this book. And we wanted to help people deal with stress. We're just discussing today with the publisher what we should price it at. And they said, initially it was like marked down $15 down to $10. I said, no, make it as inexpensive as could be. We want everyone to get their hands on this and help them out. And I think we marked it down to $7, I believe. And I threw in as a last thing, this is my pandemic cartoon. It's one of the ones I did recently. And I hope you get it. It's everyone having to stand behind those blue lines you see at the supermarkets and the post office and waiting to get into a clown car. So I'm going to stop there and bring us back to
okay.
Dana?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, it's so interesting. Just so interesting. Poor Robert had to leave, and before he left, he said, I don't know why this is so small. Here we go. He said, I've got to go now. I threw out a bunch of things from our attic this morning, and I've decided to bring them all back in the house.
And how has that helped me?
So I guess, we got double vision now. This
Yeah,
is great.
we'll take one screen off,
Okay.
and now we could now I can revisit any place. If someone has a question specifically about an object, I'll be happy to go back, and because I'm on the mobile computer now.
Okay. Someone wants to know who does your dusting.
We take turns, and it's really not that bad. I mean, it gives us a chance to go back and enjoy our collections when you go around and you clean. Of course, for this talk, I straightened up the house a little bit because it was a mess because of the pandemic. Everything's in the middle of something. And so, yeah, so you got a chance to kind of say, okay, another excuse to clean the house a little bit.
Yeah.
I even cleaned the car because I wanted it to look nice.
That someone said they meant to ask earlier if there's a slight pause before reaching for the loofah out of the bedpan.
No. You know, everything's been sanitized. We've got everything sanitized and clean. And, you know, my wife initially had used all these urine bottles for double purposing. So I think that's when you really crossed the line. Well, we had the argument about not storing our spices and food in old urine bottles. No, I'm making that up. I said that for the sake of humor. That's not true. I love my wife.
Yeah. that would draw the line for me, though.
Yeah.
It is funny.
I want to add though, I can't hear people, but I'm going to assume that there was a lot of applauding and stuff, different things I showed. And it does bring me a lot of satisfaction to get this chance to share the different things, because I think I mean, tell me if I'm wrong about this, if other people agree or not. But part of the collections is that someday you get a chance to show them and share them with other people, and not to keep them in a vacuum, but you really want to. Showing off sounds really negative, but I do want, you know, people to enjoy it. And it's something more special when it's a cluster. Like if you have 3 Godzillas, it's 3 Godzillas. But you have 40 Godzillas, all of a sudden it's something. For some reason, that group dynamic makes everything a little more special. And I found that with the Snowman, I wasn't that excited about Snowman Collecting. But when you start getting 100 or 200, it becomes something different.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep, one man's treasure is another woman's treasure. Well, you might want to use that, Bob. I like that.
Yeah, I am a little bit uptight about how much stuff we have. My wife would have no limit. I don't know how clear it was to see her office where there was so many objects, but the truth is that, you know, she's got so much more in other rooms, and if she had an airplane hangar, she would fill it. It still wouldn't be enough. And I think that's the truth about being a hoarder. There was a friend of ours who was producing a TV show about Brimfield called The Hunt. It was going to be about the people who love the hunt of finding something. That sort of like adrenaline that you get when you're looking for that one piece in your collection. And my wife was considered to be one of the main characters because that's her dynamic and that's her whole makeup. She really loves going out. I mean, I even get tingles when I go to Brimfield.
Yes.
It's a sort of a thing. And I used to get that feeling with auctions, but it's been a while now since I've been at auctions in person. But I have been to many, many auctions, and I always enjoyed them.
Yes. I love Brimfield too. I had the opportunity to go there. It's such a rush. Yeah. Someone said, how do you organize your stuff? My husband is a collector wannabe, but he's so disorganized. I have a rule that if one thing comes in, one thing must go out.
Oh, that's not a good rule. We got to talk. What we got to do know is that you do want to preserve everything, and everything I have, like, we'll just use the Snowman Collection as an example, but there are other examples of collections that we do all the preservation rules that you should do. We have things protected in acid-free plastic. We do everything in very acid-free and archival sort of storage bins. And we do go the extra yard to protect our collections because we know that otherwise, it's very easy for paper goods to get damaged with mildew and everything. And I'm preaching to the choir, but there is, responsibility to try to preserve this stuff. My other hobby is land preservation. I try to help a charity where they've been preserving a large strip of land to keep it as a public forest so people can enjoy it. And so I'm very big into preservation. And this goes with trees as much as it goes for matchbooks.
Very good. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. So did you have any final words of wisdom for us, Bob?
No, I just want to thank everyone for putting up with me. I don't know if it was too much, but
No.
I will say that there were other rooms to go into. We kind of picked out. I am regretful that we didn't show more paintings, and I realize now that some of the old paintings, the oil paintings in the living room, I didn't show. But I showed my favorite, which is the one that I got for $1.25, which is amazing. And the best thing I could say is, if everyone would to please sign up for my newsletter, I'll share some paintings for my painting collection in the next newsletter. And the newsletter is free. It's really simple. There's no obligation. There's no anything. It's just a commercial break for when you need something different. And what they need to do is they just need to email me and say hello, and then I'll add their email to this free newsletter.
Okay.
I love reaching out to people. They could talk to me about collecting, and then I could share some more stuff. I was really a little bit afraid that I was going to fatigue the viewers, so I did the best of things. But I think I did show a lot. So
yes, and
I think I picked that.
I'm ready for part 2.
Okay, so let me share my email address.
Yes.
And it's simply my last name, and it's spelled ECKSTEIN @pipeline, and spelled like it sounds, PIPELINE.com. And if you email me, then you can get, like free cartoons. I'll be sending, cartoons in the newsletter, and I love to have people look at the cartoons, and it's great to see this community, grow, and hopefully they'll go to WorthPoint and see the stories there, because I'm really into the magazine WorthPoint. I think it's marvelous what they're doing. It's making the collecting all entertaining. I actually read the stories. I'm really into it.
Yeah, good. Very good. And I will send a follow-up email, and I will be happy to include the information that you need in the follow-up as well. And I think this was great. So I don't see any other questions in, but thank you so much, everybody. There said, thank you for welcoming us into your home and sharing your art.
Ah, come on. Thank you.
Seriously.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining us. It was great seeing you, and it was awesome. Especially, I love the way you started up on the roof.
I'm just glad we didn't have an accident, and you have to preempt me with something else. Hey, hurry up and find a coin guy in 2 minutes.
Well, happy treasure hunting, and now we're all going to be watching for snowmen. Thanks to you. Bye.